Hi, welcome to another one of the 50 Fun Fab Fairies lessons. I have a very special treat for you today. We have a guest teacher. Her name is Bryn Nguyen. She's a longtime student of mine that has gotten so darn good. She now guest teaches for me in my paid programs over at awesomeartschool.com. She's a very special flower fairy lesson for you. She teaches and does her art a very different way than I do. So I would love to bring my students different ways of doing faces and different ways of drawing in general. So I hope you enjoy today's lesson with guest teacher Bryn Nguyen. Oh, I forgot to add, she has a brand new YouTube channel of her own. I will put links to that in the description box. Be sure to go check her out. And one last thing, if you want details on how this whole 50 Fun Fab Fairies challenge is running, stay to the end of the video and I will share the details, how to grab your scorecard, how to get links to the supply list and the reference photos. Everything will be there at the end of the video as well as in the description box below. Happy drawing!
Hello everybody, welcome to the 50 Fun Fab Fairies classroom. My name is Bryn Nguyen. I was asked by Campbell to guest teach a fairy lesson and I decided to do a floral fairy with a very limited palette, and what I use for this is a Copic multiliner 0.5 in lavender and some watercolors, some very simple watercolors, which as I do the lesson you can figure out what corresponding colors you have that might work for you. I have not figured out what colors I'm even working for me yet, so once I get there I will share with you what I'm doing, and then by all means any watercolors you have you can use for this lesson and a brush. So here are some of some floral ladies that I made back in January with, no, was it January or was it February? No, it's January, with a very limited palette. And so I thought we would do something like this but make a fairy. These florals might look really intricate and detailed, but they're really not. They're literally just blobs of watercolor on a paper and then I just kind of work them into a shape. Very, very, very abstract and loose. So, and these are done very small. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a grid. Here is, oopsie, hello. Here is the reference I'm going to be using today. Let me back up a little so you can see. What I do is I draw her out on 8x10 paper, and then I will take a picture of it and reduce it or enlarge it on my printer to the size I need for my project. But I always have this reference on an 8x10. I just prefer drawing on an 8x10. It's an easy size, easy to work with. So the first thing I do is I'm going to put tracing paper over the top and trace her. And the reason why I trace her first, as I've explained before, is that it really helps me to see the lines. I don't get all lost in the shading and the shadows and everything else going on in the picture. I see the lines. Now I don't probably need to trace it to see the lines, but at first it was very beneficial and I've just kind of gotten used to it and find it kind of therapeutic, and the repetition of the movement just helps for me. So I am kind of a hard one to break habit, so I still do it, and it actually doesn't take me that long. So I'm gonna grab my light box, and I will be high speeding through this because I already have a lesson, and there are other lessons out there on how to make grids. So if you're interested in that, you can find that at the Awesome Art School in the drawing classroom, and it would be under the realistic faces, where I go into grids in more detail. My light box has a habit of turning on and off. So first thing I'm gonna do is trace the lines. All right, now what I'm going to do is, actually I should have just left this on there. Oh well. What I'm going to do is draw my grid. And I do a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch grid. And the reason I do 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch and not a larger size is because when I do a larger size on an 8 by 10 sheet of paper, some of my fine details, like my eyes, actually get lost in the, lost within the box. So the box is so big that all these little details on my line get lost. So I do 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch because all those little boxes actually help me see where my line placement is better. So I'm going to do 1/2 inch horizontally and 1/2 inch vertically. Now I have my grid drawn out. I'm going to give it a number across, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm going to give it a number down. And what I do is I have a photocopied grid ready to go on another sheet of paper. Otherwise, you have to draw another grid on another sheet of paper, and you want to make sure it's done in pen or something that's not erasable, because as you draw, you do not want to erase. So I'm also going to draw out my grid over here, or draw out my numbers over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just realized I'm saying drawing out my numbers because I'm in the drawing frame of mind. I'm going to write my numbers, but you know, numbers are a form of drawing. You did have to train your brain to see those numbers a certain way, and letters too at one point. It's a very basic form of drawing. We don't think of it that way, but it is. All right, and now I have my grid ready to go, and I'm ready to transfer. Okay, so I drew out my girl, and the only alteration I made was with her nose. If you can see here, it's more of a rounded shape on my reference drawing. And so over here, I just took that rounded shape and I angled it off into more of a square shape. And then I get this nice little pointy nose, which I really like to do on a lot of my girls. And I also really like it for fairies. It just gives it a little more whimsy. And I will be changing the ears later when I transfer her to my paper. So for paper, I am just going to use a sheet of this Canson watercolor paper, 140 pound, 300 gram, that's what the G means, I don't know, 7 inch by 10 inch. It's cold press, but you can use hot press. It really doesn't matter. Here's my sheet of paper, and what I'm actually going to do is only use half of it. Because the florals can be a little bit time consuming, I don't want to be here all day, so I'm just going to fold it in half, quick and easy. I could have drawn that line, but I didn't. So I just tore out a sheet of that paper. Now I'm just going to cut it in half. Now I have one for the next one if I do another one. And here's my sheet of paper. So I guess it would be 3.5 inches by 5. So I'm going to do my fairy on this 3.5 inch of paper. I'm going to take a picture of this. I'm going to scale it down on my printer so that she fits on here, and I will be back with my graphite paper to transfer her. All right, I did a printing. My print is a lot smaller than my paper, and the reason being, I mean, it's not like super small, but I wanted to create space to add the florals up above her and her ear, up above the top. So I made sure that that would, when I printed it, that would fit up here. And of course, if you don't have a printer, you can always scale down the original piece and draw it smaller, or you don't have to use a grid at all and just, you know, do what's best for you. But this is just my process and I don't mind doing it, so that's what I do. So my finished is about 5.25 inches by 4, almost 4.25 inches. So I'm going to tape her down, and I'm leaving lots of room up at the top for the florals to go in her ear. And then I'm going to use my transfer paper, my carbon paper, graphite paper, whatever it's called. And I'm going to use my pencil. Now, sometimes I go down, instead of a 0.5 millimeter, I do a 0.3 because this is really small. And the big lead can make it a little too bulky. Now, I am not going to transfer, let's see. Well, I'm going to transfer everything, I guess, except I'm not going to do this part of her hair here because I don't need that. I just expect the florals to be above her head, and I'm not going to do part of her ear. So I'm just going to go around and trace out her face, do her jawline, her shoulder. I'll put these little reference marks in case I use them. I'm going to do the bottom of her ear and just the top of her ear so I can see where it starts, and just this inner part right there. So all I transferred was the bottom, the top, and this little part where it connects to the face. I'm going to trace her eyebrows. And I am using a 0.3. I don't know if I said that. Nose. A little bit of the dip. Nostrils. I'm going to put this eye in. And I'm going to put this eye in. And I'm going to put my lip in. I'm not putting in any teeth lines. I'm just going to leave it white for now, because then also, if I put in teeth lines, I run the risk of it looking kind of garish. Check. And then I'm going to put in this hairline here, and I'm going to very lightly put this hairline in on the top. Oopsie, can you see here? Just as a kind of a reference of where I want my flowers to go. Okay, so I have drawn her out. I'm going to check before I rip her off. She looks pretty good for me. And I'm going to take this off carefully so I don't rip it. Okay, so here is my transfer. It's hard to see her, she's dark for me, and so what I usually do is take like a kneaded eraser and lightly erase some of these lines so I don't have these really dark graphite pieces on me. Also, sometimes the graphite will mix with watercolor and make this muddy sludge. I don't like that. So I'm just gonna lighten some of that up. You can also go like this to help lighten it up. All right. And then what I'm going to add to her is, her nose got a little wonky in the transfer. That happens. I am going to add a fairy ear. So here's her hair. That's what we're going to put in thing. And then I'm going to add an ear. So the bottom of the ear is going to connect this way. And it's just, I'm going to imagine it goes out like this maybe. The top of the ear, which really I should have drawn first. Oh well. Goes this way. And I like really super long ears. Hold up. Here we go. Here is the ridge of the lobe coming down. I just make it super whimsical and loose. And then I'm going to put in the bottom like that. And then I will erase this part because I don't need it. Decided I don't need that. And inside her ear might look a little different now. And then because her ears are super long, her other ear is also going to show on this side. So I kind of have to imagine that her ear is back here and reverse it, which can be really crazy for me. Sometimes I draw it and I'm like, that doesn't look right. I might do something like that. She has kind of a thin. I might make it even thinner because it's behind her. So I just need a suggestion. That's where her ear's going. Okay. There's her ears. All right. Now I'm going to take my purple non-water soluble multi-liner. This is a 0.5, which is kind of thick, but it's the only one I have in this color for lavender. You could go down to a 0.3, even a 0.1 if you'd like. This is just the one I happen to have, so I'm just going to make it work for me. So I'm going to go over some of my lines with this, and this is water and Copic proof, so it won't smear with alcohol or water, which you definitely don't want it to smear with water because we're going to go over this with watercolor. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do the hair as an outline at all. I'm going to do her ears, and I'm just going to hold my pen lightly to create a lighter line. I'm just kind of outlining where I want her ear to go. I also don't connect every line. I break it up. I think it adds interest. So some parts are connected and some parts are. I just kind of periodically lift my pen. I'm going to go ahead and do this neckline. And this one side with her shoulder. I'm going to go ahead and do these ridges for funsies. Let's see, what else do I want to do? Put in her forehead really super lightly. Whatever line I don't want, if I decide, oh, I don't want that line there, I will just later go over it with a white Posca pen to kind of erase it. Okay, then I want her eyebrows. So I'm going to take my pen and just kind of going the direction of the brow, kind of scribble in some brows. And I'm going to go this way. Brows grow towards the outside of the face. So there's those. I'm going to do her nostril, the side of it for shape. I'm going to do her nose here. And then for lip, I'm just going to do this bottom lip, or sorry, the bottom part of the top lip. and the bottom lip here. That's all I'm going to, oh, and maybe right here, really lightly. There we go. Okay, and then for eyes, I'm going to do her eyelid, and I'm just going to do a corner on this outside because a lot of this is left in highlight, and a corner on the inside. And then I'm just going to do the top part of the circle within the eye and leave the bottom blank. And then on the other side, same thing, I'm going to go around the top, and I'm just going to do the corner on the inside and the corner on the outside and the top part of her pupil. And then, let's see, there's a little bit, this is hard to get with a 0.5, but there's a little bit of a lid line here and a little bit of a lid line here that I'll barely put in. I might put a little bit of this nose bridge in for effect. And that is all I'm going to do. Oopsie, was I on camera? So sorry. That's all I'm going to do for her with this purple pen. So, that's it for the purple pen. Now, what I can do is go ahead and erase. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that my ink is dry so it doesn't go smearing across everything. And I can come in now and really give some of these pencil lines a good bye-bye. I'm going to keep the little pupil line in there for a little bit and this lip line so I know where the paint goes. All right. And most likely this line on her head, well, it doesn't, graphite doesn't erase completely when it's transfer paper, which has its benefits and its not so good things, but it's fine because we're going to just cover this up with paint. Okay, so I am going to just start putting blooms down on paper very whimsically. For inspiration, I have a collection of different watercolor books. Here's one I like, Do It Yourself Watercolor Flowers by Marie Bowden. Very, very simple brush strokes to create these flowers. I'm not doing a good job of explaining that because, but you can see just really simple, loose flowers. There's a whole bunch of different watercolor flower books out there. What I like about hers, this one, is I like the poppies that she makes, the anemones that she makes, the dahlias, which are just little spiky things that she makes, carnations. There's just so much little simple whimsy flowers to throw in there, and it's a lot of fun. So I have my fairy, and I have my water, and I have a paper towel. I always use a paper towel when I watercolor for dabbing off my brush. I dab off my brush a lot. It is a system that you will get used to the more you do it. You'll get a feel for how wet and how dry you want your watercolor brush to be, and what gets the most pigment and the least pigment. But that is like a feeling that develops over time. It's not a natural thing. And so don't be surprised if when you first play with watercolor, it's either too dark or too light or too thick or too muddy. The key is to letting it dry a lot between layers, and less is more with watercolor because you can always add watercolor. It's really hard once you put it down to take that pigment off. The watercolor palette I'm going to use, this is a Prima Watercolor Confection, the classics. You can find them on Amazon. It's just your basic, you know, rainbow colors plus black, gray, white, and brown. So it's a very simple palette. I really like it a lot because it's so simple. I love all their palettes. I own them all. But you can use whatever watercolors you have on hand and it will work for you. All right, so when I paint the flowers, I think I'm going to start with a size 3 round. This is a Princeton Heritage size 3 round. I don't want it to be too tiny because I want to stay loose, and sometimes it's hard to keep loose when you're tiny. You want to do detail. But I think I'm going to start with this brush and see how it works for me. And I'm just going to dip it in this red. Get it kind of watery off to the side here. And then I'm going to dip it in some yellow and also get that watery off to the side. I think I'm going to put this over here so I can use the other. And then some orange. Get it super wet. Okay. And I'm going to go in with my biggest flowers first. Do I want pink? I think I want pink too. I'm feeling warm with this fairy. So I start with the biggest flowers first and then fill in little things, little flowers as fillers. So with watercolor, I'm going to start with my yellow. And to do a poppy, I'm just going to start painting my yellow. Oh, this is really light. Kind of branching out. There's one petal branching out from the center. And then I might drop in some orange. Have it bleed a little, and you want to drop in your color while it is wet, otherwise it won't drop, it'll just sit there. Here's another petal, maybe I'll drop in some red. But because it's so small, it forces it to be really, really loose. In fact, my colors are kind of blobbing, or it's not really looking spiky, but that's okay. I'm just gonna go work with it. I can go in with some darker color if I want to later, and I'm just gonna plop in color to give her her first flower. All right, now I'm gonna do another one. These are a lot. This is almost pink. I'm going to drop in some yellow. When I'm painting watercolor, I'm constantly wetting my brush. Let me see here. I wet my brush and then I kind of tap it off to the side. Sometimes I use my paper towel too to get it even drier. But I'm just making these spiky flowers on her and dropping in color while it's still wet, just a couple drops. Like I said, I'm gonna add some yellow behind it for funsies. You can always add another layer later. Or not, it just kind of depends. And see, they don't even really look like poppies. They look more to me like geraniums. Oh well. They want to do their own thing. I'm just going to let them. I'm going to put another one over here like it's peeking out. This could turn out from the side of her face. So I'm just going to do part of it. I'm going to drop in some color. And I am just being totally spontaneous on what colors I drop in. Reds, oranges, yellows. I don't know. I'm going to add some more. See what happens. See these lovely blooms that watered color does. I love it. I'll go back over here, it's still wet. Maybe I'll put some red in the center, see what happens. Oh my gosh, you look, I just love them. All right. Okay, so those are kind of done for now. Now, I mean, I could fill up her whole head with stuff like that, or I can go ahead and do something else. So maybe what I thought I would do would be, maybe I will give her a rose. So for a rose, I'm going to pick up some of this pink. Oopsie. Pink's not on here. It's hard when I'm working small to get everything. There's the pink. And I'm just going to start from the center. Do kind of a little 6. Looks like a little 6. Like that. And then I'm just going to swirl little C shapes around. Get some more paint. There's my first rose. I can do another pink rose, maybe back here. Maybe I want it to look more like a not quite open bud. You can see that I am literally just slapping line, you know, like swirls on the paper. I am not spending a lot of time trying to make it look realistic. And I'm gonna just muddy that up a little. And I like to do flowers kind of in 3s or 5s. I'm gonna do another rose over here, like it's going this way. There's my little C, C. Because these are so whimsical, they don't have to be super realistic. And if some of this bleeds into that, I'm totally okay with that right now. Okay, there's some flowers, some roses. Let's see, it looks like I'm sticking to colors of red. I think I'll do some of these chrysanthemum kind of things with little, I'm just gonna let it bleed in. Now watercolor will dry darker. I just did it right in the center and I'm just letting it bleed. Being super loose and spontaneous. Maybe I'll do a pink one. Okay. I think for interest, I might do, I have a lot of this orange. Let's see. So I have this going. I need something here, but I'm not super worried about that. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to dry what I have on mine with a dryer, and I'll be right back. All right, she is dry-ish. You can see that the colors really lightened up when they got dry. So I'm just gonna continue. I think I will try to make kind of a peachy, mix some my pink and orange a little bit together. I think I got a little too much. But I think I'm going to just dab some, making little V's. Oops, here, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. Just gonna make little V's to look like muddy it up a little. And then I might have maybe a yellow rose coming off this way. I'm just loosely making swirly shapes with my yellow. And if I don't think that's bright enough, add some orange and watch it move. And I'm just kind of feeling my way around. I'm feeling it, you know, putting in foliage, putting in flowers. I'm keeping it to these warm colors for now. I think I want some of this stuff to go out here. Whoops, that's too orange for me. I want like these pink dots kind of go out this way. And I also need it to go in front of her ear. I need something in front of her ear. Maybe I'll do some yellow. It's just kind of the suggestion of flowers, which I really like. I mean, people understand that that's flowers, even though it's super, super, super abstract. I also think I want a little bit of flowers behind. Let's see. I don't want red there. I think over here I might put in a kind of chrysanthemum shape. I'm going to muddy it around the ear so it looks like it's going around the ear. I'm going to kind of do that over on this side too, is just take my brush and do a scrubbing motion. And that way the flowers look like they're not stopping at her ear. They're going right up to it. Let's see if I don't know if I want flowers down there. I can't decide. Maybe a little bit. So let me do one of those poppies, I think. I'll do a poppy down here. Just half a poppy. Suggest it. Drop in some color. And then maybe another one of these. Again, just suggest that it's there. I'll do this peachy shape. And I'm just going to dot it off to the side. And some orange. I'll do a rose kind of shape here. It's hard sometimes to know where to stop because you don't want it to keep like going on forever, because it will. And let's see, I'm going to go back into some of these that I've already done and kind of add another layer of paint, and I'm just adding it straight from my palette. Just darkening it up a little because it's super light. And this is going to give it some depth, make it look like it has some layers. Some of it's still wet. It's okay. I can do red and then switch to orange. But I'm kind of going over it with the same paints in some places, but then in others I'm just like, oh, okay, let me add some orange here and see what happens. I find this to be so fun and freeing. Pow, that was pink. Oh well. Let's see if, oh, maybe it would be fun to add a little orange over here and that, oh my gosh. I'm also going to keep a little bit of that light too, because that dark paint and that light paint makes depth. The dark pieces come a little bit forward and the light pieces go off into the distance. I'm just adding some, I'm going to go into and add little dots around to kind of look like sprigs of things. are coming off. Doesn't have to be realistic. And again, if it's swirling and making a big mess, embrace it. It's abstract. It's fine. I've lost some of my red. There's a little bit of red in here. I'm wondering if I want to bring it back a little. Maybe do some there. Totally plain. Seeing what happens. Ooh, I like that. Are these real flowers now? No. I started with an inspiration and I just went, whatever. Just make it my own. I'm filling that rose shape again because I kind of lost it. In fact, I think all my rose shapes are lost. But that's okay. Whoops, that didn't do anything. Oops, I don't want red. Dab it off on my towel, pick that up a little. Oops, careful not to smudge my work. That's annoying when that happens, when you drag your hand or something through the brush. Okay, I'm going to dry this and then I'm going to add some leaves. Okay, for leaves, I want to make sure my green is very, there's bluish greens and there's yellowish greens. And I want to make sure my green is very yellowish green because this has a lot of yellows, reds, and oranges in it. There are no, I mean, aside from her outline, there's not a lot of purplish colors. So I'm just going to go through and add some foliage. And what I did is I just mixed a little bit of yellow with my green to get this greenish yellow color. And I'm just going to loosely put in some leaves here and there. So I might, for leaves, add like that. There's not a lot of space for leaves on her, but, and I don't have to fill in my leaf. I can leave it just kind of a shape. Leaves are pointed at the end. I could just do half leaf, like I just did a line to suggest there's a leaf there. Let's see, where else could I put a leaf? That red is still wet. Oh well. The leaf there. I didn't leave a lot of room. If you have room inside, you can kind of go in and put some green to suggest that there's leaves inside the foliage too. Just kind of dab my green paint here and there to kind of look like that. Literally, I'm just kind of plopping dots on pages on the page. I think that's enough green that I need for now. Okay, I'm gonna move on. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to do her lips and fill in some of her shadowing. So I'm gonna keep it, because she's done in these colors, I'm gonna keep it these colors. So I'm gonna go in with let's see here. I'm going to go in with some yellow. And I think I'm going to make her eye yellow and just dab yellow in her eye. Yellow paint. There. And then I'm going to put water down where her cheeks are. Like right. And then I'm going to plop in some pink paint and just kind of watch that spread around. Just dab it. I'm going to do a little bit of the same thing on the other side. Plop in some pink paint. And I like giving them like pink shoulders. So I'm going to plop down some water and drop in pink paint. Now, if you put down too much, you can always take your paper towel and plop it in there and it will kind of drink it back up. And I'm going to do it over here on this shoulder, lay down some water. The paint will only go where you've put the water down. And then you can kind of move it and help it around if you want. I'm also, let's see, going to give her a pink lip. So I'm going to get my pink paint. And I'm just going to go, the darkest part of her lip is the top lip. I'm just going to go around the bottom of that lip. And then on the inside, I'm going to go around where the teeth are and the base there. And then I can kind of take a dry brush and scrub that around. And I'm going to drop in some more pink on the bottom. Let it using the very tip there. All right, and then maybe in her ears, I want some shadow. I might do some pink inside the ear a little, just kind of very watery and loose. And then for shadow, I'm gonna put some pink down as a pretend shadow there. I'm not gonna get too crazy with shadows because then you're gonna lose everything. Okay, so I'm gonna dry this pink paint and then I'm gonna come back for the next. All right, for the next layer, I am going to deepen this a little by putting some orange, just kind of over the top of it in a very, very loose way. I'm gonna deepen inside her ear by putting orange in there. And I forgot to do around the shadow around her eyes, so I think I'll go ahead and, yeah, I do not like that. I don't like that at all. I'll take my paper towel and remove what I just did a little bit. Let's see. Maybe I'll do a little pink again. I'm going to do pink in the inner and outer parts of the eye. I'm going to have to let that dry. And I'm going to just put some orange here where the clavicle or whatever that is. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry. All right, now that it is dry, my green has faded a lot. So I'm gonna go back in with my yellow green and just kind of touch up pieces of these leaves real quick. I could just use my plain green a little because it really lightened up when it dried. There's that. Okay, now here's the scary thing. I am actually going to add a little bit of green to my shadows. The reason being it's going to contrast with the red and orange and kind of create a shadowy color. I want to make sure that my colors are dry before I do that, or I'm going to get a big shade of mud. So I'm going to make sure I'm really watering down my green. And I'm using that same kind of greenish yellow I've been using, getting it super watery. And I'm just kind of loosely going over, just like I did like in her ear, with very watery paint. I'm going to loosely go over the shadow with green, just like that. I'm going to go over the clavicle loosely with green. Because these pieces are part of her foliage and her hair, and so I want to make sure I'm bringing it into the shadows so it looks connected, but you have to make sure that pink and red paint is dry or you're going to get not green, you're going to get mud. I'm going to dab a little green in the corners of her eye, the ridge of her eye there, just a little bit of green. And I'm also going to be daring and bringing a little bit of green to the bottom of her lips and the top part of that lip where the shadow is. So the bottom part of the top lip and the top part of the bottom lip. And oh, she has a shadow under her lip. I didn't really do that. I'm going to just drag some green under there. And I am going to take some green and plop it in her eye at the top. And then I'm going to take a dry brush, super dry, dry it on my paper towel, and dip it in there, and it will soak up some of that watercolor back onto my brush. And you can see that. And then I just take that watercolor and wipe it off. You can see I wiping it off on my paper towel as it soaks it up. Okay, we are almost done. I'm going to dry her and I will be right back. So now what I am going to do, you know, I think I want to deepen her lip color a little. I'm going to add some red to the bottom. And then rinse off my brush, wipe it off on the towel, and just kind of scrub it out a little. I honestly never really know what's going to happen. And I totally forgot to give her a pink nose. I always give all my girls little pink noses. So I'm just going to add a little bit of watered down pink. That is not watered down pink. That is bright pink. So I'm dab off my brush and kind of blend out my, you can see I'm dabbing this and scrubbing that out to get that to blend a little better. And the shadow I forgot to put in, so I'm just going to add some orange there. Also forgot to put in a shadow here. I'm going to take it out. I don't think I like it. You can take everything out with a, you know, dry off your brush on a paper towel, and then it can pull the color back out of your piece. It's like a little sponge, but only if it's wet. Scrub that around a little. All right. Put in some pink back where I lost it. Put some pink in the ear where I kind of lost it. Back in the neck here. Back in her eyes. There's a lot of drying time. That's why I have a heat gun, because I just don't have the patience to wait for my watercolor to dry all day long. All right. Okay, I'm gonna dry this again, and then I'm gonna finish her up. Okay, for finishing her up, I'm gonna go back to my purple pen, my purple Copic, my lavender, technically lavender pen, and I am going to add some thin and thick lines. So I'm gonna, and I really am into, I just do what feels like it needs to be thick to add interest. So I'm gonna make this part of the neck a little bit thicker and thicken it up. I'm gonna leave this part lighter. I'm gonna thicken the jawline, just kind of blend it out when it gets to the chin. Some of her eyebrows got a little bit lost, so I'm gonna go back through and darken those. Her ear, I'm gonna make the front part a little bit, and I'm just gonna let it go off the page. Not go off the page, I'm sorry, draw a big line. I'm gonna do that with this line too. flick. I'm doing a flick motion. I'm going to thicken up the inside of her ear. Maybe just this part of her lobe. Thick and thin lines are just super interesting to add. I might just thicken just that part of the clavicle. And then I need to give this girl some pupils. When I do my pupils on this, I don't need to fill in the whole thing. So I'm just going to go where the pupils are and kind of make a little C shape inside. Just made a C shape. I didn't even fill it in. I just did a C. And then I'm going to deepen up the top by going over it again. And now I need to give her some lashes, where I'm going to just flick these lashes kind of straight out like that. And maybe give her a bottom one, which is really hard with a size 5. Oopsie, was I even on the thing? I am so sorry. I just flicked them out like by doing a motion like that, straight out. And then I have to do it on this side too. Now, because of the angle, when I'm looking at my reference photo, her eyelashes kind of are going straight out. They're not going off to the side like that because of the way the angle is. So I'm going to just draw them like that. I'm going to deepen this line of her lip right here. And just put a thicker line. All right. And then I'm going to go in with her hair and add just little squiggles and embellishments. So I might go in and exaggerate this rose by just doing little C shapes around where that rose is, maybe some curls where that flower is. I'm not doing it everywhere, just here and there to kind of bring some interest. I might do dots, whatever this pretend flower is. I want dots in it. So I'll put dots over it, and because that pretend flower is over here, I'm going to put it over here. I might, again, do some C's down here, maybe dots there. I'll put some, you know, make it like purple foliage coming off to the side. And then I also like to just kind of add little squiggles. So I just kind of take my pen really loosely to the side. I'm just going to squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. You know, it's kind of like those little squiggle things that come off of, don't want to do too much like that. Just make it look like it's like really super organic. And now I'm going to add a white Posca, if I can find one, and bring in, I'm going to put a little teeny tiny dot in her eye. Where that highlight is. And I might do a little bit here of her nose. Where her nose is, just kind of blend that out. I'm going to get rid of some of this line. It doesn't need to be there. You can see it without, I mean, your brain will connect it. I'm going to get rid of this line down here on her shoulder. Let's see. I might, do I want to get rid of, I might just do a little bit here too. Okay, there. Now I kind of want to give her some paint splatters. So I am going to go in with a really wet brush. I'll go back with my 3 and get my super wet with water. I think I want yellow. So I'm going to dip it in the yellow paint, super, super wet, and then just kind of tap my brush and it's going to flick paint around. So let me decide where I want that. I think I want some up here. That is not looking yellow, that's looking orange. See, you make a plan and it changes anyway. Oh well, it is what it is. So there's some, okay, my battery decided to die in the middle of that. That was fun. So thankfully it beeped at me. So I'm gonna grab more of that yellow. I'm gonna actually give her some freckles, I think. So I will splatter her across the face and down the other side. Can you see that? The key to this is just making your brush super wet. And I might add, because it ended up being orange, I might put some orange in there. And what you can do if it's too much is just take your paper towel, and if you don't like it because it's like too much, you can just kind of dab out some of the dots if you don't like them. I mean, they're still sometimes there, but they're really, really, really light. I'll put a little red in here, I think. Oops. I don't mind getting super splattery. I think I might splatter the whole thing for fun. Because this just looks so empty over there. Just a few over there. And do I want her to have some darker freckles? Maybe. Kind of wanted her freckles to go up her face, not down her face. So let me try to do that. There we go. All right, I'm gonna dry her one last time. Okay, she's dry. I'm done. There's my fairy, super loose. I know it kind of takes a while, but the thing is it's just a bunch of scribbly paint and some scribble lines, aside from the actual drawing of her. And I really, really, really find these so much fun to do. And like I said, you can get inspiration for watercolor flowers on YouTube, or sorry, on the internet. You can get them maybe on YouTube, I don't know. You can get them in books and just play and have fun with it. Enjoy the process. And I look forward to seeing what you guys all create. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can ask them in the Awesome Art School on Facebook. I would be more than happy to help, and I so look forward to seeing what you guys create. I hope you had fun and have a good time. Bye!
I hope you enjoyed Bryn's lesson. As promised, I have details on how this whole Fun Fab Fairies challenge is working. I actually have the supply lists, I have the swag details and reference photos and everything you need for this whole 10 lesson long challenge over for free in a free classroom over on my website, awesomeartschool.com. So if you want all the bells and whistles that go along with the free lessons, go to awesomeartschool.com. You can check out and enroll into that free classroom. Enjoy. And if you want to binge any of the other lessons, go ahead and click the playlist on your screen, and that will have you access to all the lessons in the entire series.